Since childhood, schools have been more than just spaces of learning. For many, they are stages of friendships, challenges, and discoveries. But hidden within their walls are stories that go far beyond the ordinary. Around the world, schools have become the backdrop for tales of shadows in empty hallways, cries echoing in classrooms at night, and apparitions that seem to resist the passage of time. Today, we will dive into these places where the boundary between reality and the supernatural becomes unsettlingly thin. In Japan, there is no shortage of stories of haunted schools. One of the most famous involves the abandoned school in Hachioji in Tokyo. Locals avoid passing by at night, claiming to hear footsteps in the corridors and even seeing figures in uniforms when the building has been deserted for decades. The Japanese connection between schools and spirits is deeply rooted in their folklore, where unfulfilled lives or tragic events often manifest as restless souls. The fear intensifies when we remember how many children spent years within those walls, turning the setting into a fertile ground for urban legends. In Mexico, stories are equally chilling. The old school of San Juan, closed after a tragic fire, is said to be still inhabited by the spirits of students who never left. Residents report hearing children laughing and the sound of furniture being dragged inside, even though the place has been abandoned for years. Mexican culture, so strongly linked to death and the afterlife, especially with traditions like Dia de los Muertos, gives an even deeper layer to these stories. What might seem like imagination to some becomes, for others, a terrifying reality that blurs the line between life and death. Moving to Eastern Europe, Romania, known for its history of myths and legends, also has chilling accounts of haunted schools. In Cluj-Napoca, an old building used as a school during the 19th century is now avoided by locals after numerous reports of apparitions. The most frequent tale speaks of a teacher dressed in black who appears in classrooms late at night, reciting lessons in a language no one understands. These reports reinforce the region's aura, already famous for figures like Vlad the Impaler, and remind us that not all mysteries are confined to castles and forests. The walls of schools also guard their ghosts. In the United States, schools are often at the center of paranormal investigations. One of the best-known cases comes from Ohio, where an old high school, now closed, gained fame for supposed hauntings. Former students and teachers claim to have seen shadows moving in the auditorium and heard voices in the locker rooms. Paranormal researchers who investigated the site reported inexplicable fluctuations in temperature and sounds captured on recorders. In a culture where ghost stories mix with television series and urban legends, cases like this spark even more curiosity, especially because they occur in places where thousands of young people lived part of their lives. Finally, in Brazil, we also find intriguing accounts. In the interior of Minas Gerais, a public school became the subject of national news after multiple reports of supernatural events. Teachers and students claimed to hear knocks on walls, screams in the corridors, and even objects moving on their own. The case was so serious that classes were suspended for a time. For many, the explanations were spiritual in nature, while others sought psychological or environmental causes. But one fact remains. Once fear takes over a community, the memory of those events lingers long after the supposed phenomena end. Schools, no matter where they are, carry an aura of familiarity mixed with the unknown. They are spaces of memory, where thousands of people leave fragments of their lives, emotions, and stories. When linked to tragedies, legends, or unexplained events, they become fertile ground for stories that challenge our understanding of the world. By traveling through different countries and cultures, we see that the phenomenon of haunted schools is not isolated, but a global narrative where each nation adds its own fears and interpretations. And this raises a question. Are these stories the product of imagination, fueled by culture? Or is there something beyond that, a reality that escapes our understanding? What is certain is that schools, so present in our daily lives, can also be doors to mysteries that defy logic. Perhaps the next time you walk down an empty school corridor, you will wonder if you are truly alone, or if the past is still watching you, silently, through the cracks in the walls.